Manifestation Pod. We are Louise and Sam, two ordinary mums living extraordinary lives through friendship, self-improvement, manifestation, the law of attraction, and a little bit of the magic. We look forward to you joining us on our fortnightly podcast. Good morning. Welcome to the Manifestation Pod, and I think we are on to episode 4. So today we're going to talk about overcoming adversity with me, Louise, and Sam Fillingham. Hi, Sam. How was your week?
Hello. Good, thank you. Yeah, pretty good. I'm looking forward to part 2 of overcoming adversity. We went slightly off topic last time, didn't we? Which was fun. Yeah, but no, my week was good. Vibe wise, it's still pretty low, but it's better than last time. I think it's, spring is helping, clocks are changing and all of that, aren't they? So lots more time outside this week, which has been really nice. But yeah, still feeling a bit like sluggish, low vibe energy, I have to say.
Oh, really? Maybe it's something to do with the clocks changing. I felt a little bit like that at the beginning of the week. But it has rained all week as well, which is never good. But today the sun's shining. I am off for Easter, kind of. Had to change it because I'm moving house, but I'm kind of off for quite a bit over Easter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. A little bit of time off. I'm feeling a bit more energized. It's all good.
It is. It's a nice time of year, actually. Yeah, I'm glad that the kids are off for a couple of weeks now, and Easter, and all the daffodils are out by my side here as I look out the window. So yeah, we're on the up, aren't we?
We are. Charlotte brought home a sunflower seed thing from Cubs last night, and I'm determined for the first year because, as you know, I just kill any living plant. I was going to say animal then. I don't kill animals. Any plants don't survive in our house at all. I'm not a very green finger, but I'm really going to try this year with the whole sunflower and see, what we can do to make it grow. That's filling me with joy today, right there.
Absolutely. I love a good sunflower. Shall we get into our adversity then and things that we've done to overcome it?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, 5 minutes before we started recording it, as I do. I'm so prepared. But I don't know, I kind of have quite a few examples for overcoming adversity, but I think probably one of the biggest ones was when what should have been a really, really bad time in my life was completely changed just because of me changing my mindset towards the situation. So, I'm going back like years ago now, like long before I had Charlotte. But years ago, I had at the time a really good job. I was a collections manager for a call centre. I lived with my husband. We had a nice flat. We had, life was good basically. And then, well, actually, that's a complete lie. It wasn't good at all. Everything seemed good, but it wasn't. I was in a bad situation with my husband that I didn't want to be in, and long story short, I left him in the middle of the night. And to leave someone in the middle of the night with nothing is obviously, you're in a pretty desperate place. So, but because of where we lived in Staffordshire. I had rented my house out in Manchester, so I came home. I didn't come back to Manchester. I went to a friend's house in Wigan in the middle of the night, and I stayed there, I think, for a weekend. And then on the Monday, I went to my parents because I couldn't go to my house because I'd rented it out. And then I realised that I'd left my marriage. I feel like in life, it's a bit like, I always compare life to a snakes and ladder board. You feel like you're reaching the top. We're all a bit programmed to get a good job, move up the career ladder, meet someone, settle down, get married, have a nice house, do all these things. And I'd achieved all that, but I was so bloody unhappy. And so anyway, I left. But as well as leaving him, I also had to leave my home, my job, everything. And I came back to Manchester and I had nothing. To complicate things even further, the person that lived in my house, who was the tenant, was not a good person, and didn't pay the rent for the last. As soon as I gave her notice, she didn't pay rent. I mean, she was never great at paying it anyway. But she also, I rented my house out fully furnished, and when I got the keys back to it, she just pinched all the furniture, like everything, wrecked the house, pinched all the furniture. So the day I moved back to the house, to my home, which was the day that I thought would solve all my problems, because all right, this, and this had happened, which were all bad. But if I got my house back, it would kind of be a bit of a right, well, at least I've got a base now and I can start again. But I came back and I had nothing. I had no money, no job, no husband, no furniture now, and just this shell of a house. I remember, like, I don't cry very often, but I remember being close to tears. I don't think I cried then, and thinking, oh my God, I've got nothing. Like, I have lost everything. And the more I started thinking about it, I was kind of literally going, oh my God, I've lost everything. I've lost everything. I've got nothing. I've got nothing. Oh my God, I've got nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It just felt like, if you've got nothing, like literally nothing, and don't get me wrong, I know there are worse people in the world. I know that there are people, starving in Africa that have really got nothing. But in my life, it's all relative. I had nothing. I'd gone from having everything to having literally nothing. But that just turned around. It was a Sunday morning, and I was sat on the floor in my lounge with no furniture on the carpet that was filthy and covered in wine and God knows what, and the house was just dirty and smelled weird. And yeah, I was like, oh my God, I've got nothing. And I realized at that point, if you've got nothing, you can do anything, because you've literally got nothing to lose. And that was a real like, wow, this is amazing, because I've got nothing. What is it I want to do with my life? And that was such a pivotal moment of me making massive changes in my life. And I think anybody, we obviously met once I'd had Charlotte, so you know me as a very certain type of person, who's like a mom and probably very, very stable, like in my life. Whereas prior to that, before this happened, I absolutely wasn't. I was not in a bad way, not in a chaotic way, but I was just all over the place. I was getting jobs here, getting jobs there, in a relationship, getting married, just saying yes to a lot of life experiences, but some of them just were not good ones. And yeah, I just, it was a massive moment that completely changed my life. And I think anyone who knew me before then and after then would see a would be able to like talk about the change in me, because it was absolutely transformational and life changing. And if that bad thing hadn't have happened, which the perception is it's a bad thing, you've lost everything, but actually it was such a great thing that happened to me, because it transformed my life in such a good way, and it made me really sit and think about what is important to you. And I realized, I mean, God, this could be the longest podcast ever, but, and I won't go into loads of detail now, but I realised that I'd climbed my way up a career ladder that I never really wanted to be on. I didn't want to work in like doing what I was doing, working in a call centre. Or I was managing a call centre, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It's not what I dreamt of. And it didn't really, I don't know, you end up on a ladder, and because the job maybe isn't for you, but you feel like you've achieved something, so therefore you've got to stick with it, but you're unhappy, so you try and earn more money so you can spend more money to try and fill that void, and you just end up in a bit of a mess. And that's exactly where I ended up, in this massive mess of completely my own making, really, once I'd really sat and thought about it. But that was such a turning point of going, right, you've got nothing, you can do whatever you want to do. What is it you want? And I didn't know, it took me ages to figure that out. It took me like a good probably year. I'm still figuring it out, what I completely want. But yeah, it was a complete change of career. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to really, really smell the coffee and enjoy the little things in life and build this life of happiness. And that's exactly what I've done. So yeah, it's just this, the point of this is just about mindset and about sometimes the worst things in your life can be the absolute best things in your life. And I made so many changes because of that that are so positive. Like, I didn't even know myself before that. And all this happened at age, I can't remember how old I was, 38. You'd think you'd have your shit together by then, and I absolutely didn't. I didn't have a clue. And I think now, like, so many years later, I think I've got my shit together, but I'm still learning. I'm still on this journey. And every week, sometimes I learn something. I'm like, oh my God, I'm still learning. So I don't think we ever get there. It's just a journey, but it's such a good one. And I mean, when I think back to then, the life before then, I was so unhappy. And now I'm happy, and I'm happy with far less material things than yeah. I don't need things now like I used to need them, but I used to need them to fill that void, and I don't have that void anymore. And that is life changing.
Mm. It's so interesting. Like, obviously, we've talked about that situation before, but looking at like how you overcame it and that pivotal moment where your mindset completely changed, and
Yeah.
that's the course for everything since then, is just so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and then at that point in my life, even though like I've believed in the law of attraction and I've followed it since my early 20s, even before I knew it what it really was, I've always believed that I can achieve anything and that life will turn out okay. I've always believed that. I believe that like people believe in God or whoever they believe in, I believe in everything will turn out all right. But at that point in my life, I didn't do any reading on things like that. I didn't read any self-help books. I did it in my 20s and I do it now all the time. Self-help books and how to achieve more and just how to be a better person and be a happier person. But I didn't then. And that just kind of it was like an epiphany. It just literally came to me. I was like, oh my God, I've got nothing. Oh, I've got nothing. Wow, I've got nothing. I can do anything. And yeah, it was. And I would say like to anyone that is going through it like a really tough time, just try and cling on to some hope that either things will get better or that might be the time to make changes in your life that you're not happy with. I don't want to sound preachy at all, but not everything needs to be. Out of every bad situation, I honestly believe this, you can find that chink of light.
Absolutely. And do you know what's interesting? When I think about some of the challenges I've had, I think my biggest breakthrough was at a similar age. I think I was probably about 30.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we might have to change the name of this podcast to like a breakdown is a breakthrough, because that's what was like
Oh,
into my mind then. Because like basically every element of your life had broken down, but it was a total breakthrough to the life that you wanted,
yeah.
which is so cool. And yeah, I think I was like 38 when I started going through my major challenge that I wanted to talk through and sort of share with people, to share the things that I learned and the tools that helped me get through it. Because I worked for HMRC for like 14 years, and it was a really awful working environment. So much like bullying and toxicity, and many different things conspired and caused me to get PTSD from the workplace. What the
Jeez.
hell? That should have like never happened. But basically a really toxic team, a lot of abuse within the team, physical, sexual, all sorts. Like, I won't go into too much detail, but really awful situation. I was like on the outer edges of it, but it still caused me to get PTSD because it was an awful environment to be in. And yeah, a few years later, I was diagnosed with PTSD as a result of it. So it was just like a really shocking thing to go through, because up until that point, I think I'd associated PTSD with like people being in a war situation or going
Yeah.
through like real physical kind of trauma rather than just, going to work, trying to do your job, trying to make a living, trying to make a good life for your family. You don't really expect that stuff to go down in your workplace. So it was, yeah, really pretty dark time in a lot of ways. Anxiety, heightened senses, depression, all of it really, all around work. And yeah, PTSD is awful, lots of paranoia. But again, similar to what you went through, like it just totally strips you of everything in your mind up to this point, more of like a mental thing of everything like I'd known and understood about myself and the world up to this point just got stripped back because I got to such a low place with where the PTSD took me. So the things that got me through were obviously like family support, which was amazing. My husband and you and all my family were really supportive at the time. But my biggest breakthroughs that came from it were as a result of therapy, like really good EMDR therapy, which I would recommend to anyone that's been through any trauma, which is eye movement desensitization something. Look it up, EMDR anyway. And that is really, really powerful. It really reframes the traumas in your mind. It was really interesting doing that therapy in a way because I learned that like if you've had more than one trauma, they kind of add up over time and eventually they club together and can make little traumas seem really awful because all the traumas are clubbed together. And that's what happened with me, unfortunately, that there'd been a few little traumas along the way in life and they'd all come together at that point and ganged up on my mind basically. And the EMDR was really good because it takes you back to all of those traumas in a really safe way, but makes you see that like there was some really nice things about that time as well, and really reframes the trauma. And once you've reframed your trauma, you can build yourself back up. And throughout that, the things that really helped me build myself back up were walking. I think walking was the first one that I was like able to do because you're so emotionally raw and vulnerable when you're going through therapy that you can't really do the self-help stuff we're doing now because like your mind is just really, really overrun. So I always remember like Carl saying to me like, just go for a walk, like just start, like you really like it will make you feel better. And he literally nearly had to push me out the door, which sounds really funny now because obviously walking is just a passion of mine. But he had to push me out the door. And then I had to have like a walking meditation soundtrack to like make me get out there and stay out there and like plan a route and just be like, right, this is the circular route that I'm going to do like every day for my recovery to just help me. And walking became such a blessing during that time. And I just ended up like walking more and more, listening to more meditation along the way. And walking really did save me a lot. It really did. And it was really quite angry walking a lot of the time. It was a way to like stomp out my frustrations with the situation and everything going on with it. But I used to find after like an hour of walking, my mind would go quiet. It would literally take an hour. I remember timing it. And it wasn't until I'd walked for an hour that like my mind was just completely silent. And then for the next part of the walks, as they got longer, was just pure bliss because my mind was my own again and it was quiet again. And it was lovely. Yeah, it was really lovely. And then as like, got through the therapy, the walking helped me and I'd got my mind back in a lot of ways. I started discovering like other things that would help in me. Like I got into following the cycles of the moon and working with a group of ladies during lockdown over that and finding that real spiritual connection with the moon and the universe. That was like another breakthrough of, for the first time ever, no longer feeling alone in the universe, like feeling part of a bigger something and having something else on my side all times, everywhere. Like that was super, super powerful. I love all that stuff now.
Yeah, it's nice to have something to believe in. like whatever that thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really realize, do you? Because like I've never had any kind of a religion or anything like that, and I've always not really believed in any kind of organized thing like that. But to find, the rhythms of the earth and the moon and the natural things that are all around us, and to feel so like held and supported by that is
Yeah.
really powerful. Really, to this day, like I really needed it then, but every day now, I still need it. It's a wonderful thing. It really, really is.
Well, it must be quite comforting. I used to have a friend. I mean, she's still my friend. I just never see her because she lives in a different country. She was religious Catholic, and even though I'm not religious particularly, I think I'm quite spiritual, but I'm not particularly religious. I used to say to her, "It must be so nice to have this rock to believe in, this thing that you utterly, whatever's going on, like God is there for you. That must be so nice." I've always been interested in like other religions. I've read loads about like Buddhism. I've been to the Buddhist center and done meditating with monks. That was amazing. I think Judaism's a nice religion. Sikhism's a nice religion. I like reading about them. But I don't know. The only real thing I believe in is me.
Mm.
And that's the only thing I've ever believed in. And whether that's, I don't know, maybe some deep down, I've only ever been able to rely on myself. So therefore, and I don't mean that in, some people are like, I don't trust anybody but me. I don't mean it like that. I do. I'm not closed off to other people, but I do believe that I will get me through anything that comes along. And, I've got a child now, and I feel very much like that, as all parents do, about her, that as long as she's got me, she'll be absolutely fine. I mean, she's got a dad as well, let me just say. But yeah, she'll be she'll be absolutely fine.
Mm. I think the way like the times we've grown up in and everything, that is like the culture of it of, you've got yourself, you'll get on, you'll be fine in the world. And
Yeah,
that's why like finding spiritual practice is like a real revelation, because it's like, oh, hang on, like if you've got something else to believe in, you're never on your own. You're
yeah.
all held and like protected and looked after. And that's a really, really nice feeling. It really is.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be to feel like part of something bigger than you would be. Maybe I need to read more moon books.
Maybe. I mean, moon might not be yours, you never know. But I mean, I would recommend anyone like the moon, cycle and the power of it and getting in tune with it is really powerful for all of us, whether you see that as like a spiritual practice or just a mindfulness thing of, how the months track and, the calendars and things like that. Because it goes back to what we were saying in one of the podcasts previously, like the calendars used to track the moon because that's the Earth's natural cycle. And then at some point, someone changed them, however many years ago. And I think for me, getting into the moon cycle and everything around that just takes you back to a natural way of living outside of all the material stuff we have now, outside of technology, outside of everything else. Nothing can take away from me looking outside the window and seeing what point the moon is at and having a little think about how that might reflect how you're feeling and what's going on in the world around you as well at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think like I like reading about other religions, and I've read stuff about the moon and stuff, and I read it in a that's lovely. I get it, but it doesn't what's the word I'm looking for? Like sing to me. It doesn't make me want to go, oh, or it doesn't make me feel like I could believe in that. I'm just looking at it from a distance and going, yeah, that's great, but it doesn't fill me with joy or make me feel part of something. Interestingly, I went to Marrakesh in November, and our hotel, which was amazing, was right next to a mosque. The mosque was dead central from our balcony, and the call to prayer, which they did, I'm sure it was like 9 times a day. Oh my God, that noise was literally the most beautiful sound I think I've ever heard. And that made me feel very, even thinking about lying in bed in that beautiful sunshine, the sun pouring through the curtains and listening to that made me feel really comforted. Not for me, but for, Muslims who obviously are going to prayer. But all through bad times, all through like COVID and all that, how nice must it be to know whatever's going on in the world, that 9 times a day, I don't even know if it's 9 times a day, I've never Googled it, but you're going to hear that noise and you need to pray. There's something about that. I tried to find, and I think I did find it. I did it for a week afterwards, and then I forgot, like I inevitably do. But I found a meditation with the sound of the call to prayer, because it is such a beautiful sound. It's so nice. It's so spiritual and so soothing and comforting. It's really, really nice. And that's to obviously a Westerner who, I did Google what they were saying. And what they were saying wasn't as spiritual as how it sounded, because it literally translates as stop what you're doing and pray. Praying's more important. It was good. But yeah, it was nice to believe in something.
Maybe chanting.
Maybe, yeah.
Your root.
Really, yeah, because it's very sing-songy. It's such a nice sound. Yeah.
Like Buddhism, really. Like Buddhism is like big on chanting, isn't it? And that's something that you've done quite a bit of in the past, isn't it?
Yeah, so I did. I had a friend. I'm still his friend. I just never see him. Called Dylan, and me and him went to Manchester Buddhist Centre. I was really interested in Buddhism in my 20s, and we spent a day with the monks. It was literally like 9 to 5. I think we ate rice with the monks at lunchtime, and they told us not to drive because you feel quite lightheaded at the end of the day. And I couldn't really understand that. It didn't make any sense to me that, how could just, chanting or saying a few words could make you lightheaded. But wow, it did. We were really spaced out at the end of the day. Like, yeah, it was such a weird feeling, like almost when you've had a couple of drinks and you've had a drink, you're not drunk, but you're just a bit tipsy. Like, I'm not saying you felt tipsy, but a similar feeling that you're not quite with it. It was very, very relaxing.
Yeah, that's nice. Like a meditative state that you've gone to with that chanting. I think that's like you shouldn't drive kind of state. That's really powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. And meditation, like I know you do it, and my friend Kerry is really into meditation. I mean, she meditates to the point she has experiences while she's doing it. She gets to like a completely different state of mind. It doesn't work for me at all. Every single time I meditate, I fall asleep. I can relax, clearly, a bit too much. So I never get that feeling of peace. I mean, I do. I feel peaceful, but then I fall asleep. So it always seems a bit, I can't do it during the day because I would literally fall asleep. So I do it at night. And then I think, well, if I fall asleep, it's fine. And I feel rested, but I've never really fully got to that place of like total peace. With any kind of mindfulness. I have with yoga. My yoga instructor always says, like, the last practice we do where you lie down, and he always says, clear your mind. And he says, you'll never completely clear your mind to the point of it being empty. Things will always pop in. But like with meditating, you just let them come in and let them go out and don't dwell on it too much. But honestly, every time I fall asleep, I've snored in yoga, I've dribbled in yoga because I'm completely out of it at the end of it. So I think I can relax, but not in the way that you're in a wakefulness relaxing. I just literally go to sleep. But hey, that works for me.
Hey, that's what your body needs. That's what your body needs, isn't it? And
yeah,
it's still good for you. I don't know if we talked about this. Like, I'm studying yoga nidra at the moment, which is that bit at the end of your yoga where you go to sleep. But that's the whole practice. And later on the year, I'm going to be teaching it. That is like you go to so many different depths with that, of just a relaxed state and a state where you can visualize stuff and things like that. But if you're not like kind of rested enough, then you will just sleep. because you need the
Right.
rest. So you've just got to let yourself rest, but maybe more rest to get to that next stage. But
yeah, maybe.
Maybe when you've moved, if you do want to explore any of it, I'll come to like a meditation or anything like that you want to do.
Yeah, I definitely want to like do more of that. Because with Buddhism, I used to like the chanting and I really like the idea of having a little space at home although I've got that many little spaces that I want for different things. I mean, the house isn't that big. But like a little station for like chanting and meditation, like really comfortable with cushions, and maybe the little bell and the little chime when you start doing it, to make it a real practice rather than something that I just do every now and then, to make it a bit more, what's that word I love, conscious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having like an altar or a rest cave, as they call it in my yoga nidra training, it definitely helps. And like everyone should have one, because then it just becomes more of a ritual and something that like you're really excited to do, rather than like, oh, I've got to do that meditation.
Yeah,
The vibe of it completely.
and even a visual reminder, because I think, I don't know if this is just a getting older thing and everyone's the same, but honestly, if things aren't in front of me, I forget to do them. I literally need visual reminders for everything. You'll love this, I'm doing a mood board on Sunday, a vision board with my friend Ian. Wanted to do a vision board for a long time, and I've never done one because everything I've read is download Canva, do it on, and I'm like, do you know what? I spend my life on the computer. I don't want to spend my weekends on the computer like making a vision board. I want something tangible that I can touch, I can put on a wall, I can add to it, I can take things off as things change. I know you can do that, on technology, but I just don't want to. So we're doing that on Sunday, because I think some of the things Charlotte said to me yesterday, she was like, do you know, we've not played tennis for ages. I love playing tennis with my daughter. Like, absolutely, it's one of my favourite things to do. We've not done it for ages. I know it's been cold and winter, but I just forget. I've wrote that on, so I've got a list of things for my vision board, and playing tennis is one of them. I've literally left the rackets on the stairs so that I'm tripping over them, so that we will go on Saturday and play tennis. So yeah. But yeah, we'll do things when I move.
Yeah, let's go on a spiritual journey together and bring it to a pot. Fun.
Found, actually, I've been meaning to tell you this for like 3 or 4 weeks, but I had a meeting with someone at work and like a group of people, and just happened to be sat next to someone, and we happened to start talking about meditation, and I think it was yoga. And she sent me details for a yoga retreat. One of them is at, what's that nice hotel in Buxton called?
Oh, the Crescent.
Oh, is it that? It's the one called the Grand.
No, not in Buxton. There's Old Palace and the Crescent.
Well, there's one at Buxton. The thing that puts me off, it's not got a pool, and I do love swimming. Or there's one in Clitheroe, and I think it's like £375 for the weekend. But there's loads of yoga and meditating for the whole weekend, and doing mindfulness walks in the woods. The Clitheroe one actually looks better than the Buxton one. I think, one, because it's not got a pool, two, because I know Buxton quite well. Obviously, you're there. So yeah, I was wondering if you fancied that. I think it's like September when the kids go back to school, a long weekend.
It's a perfect time for a retreat. It really, definitely up for that. Sounds good. Well, that's a nice way to end it, isn't it? So yeah, overcoming adversity. We hope we've shared with you some of the tools and techniques and things that we've used to overcome adversity. And yeah, next time everything goes wrong and you're at that rock bottom, remember, a breakdown is a breakthrough.
Love it.
We'll be back next week talking about how food affects your vibe. And we will see you then. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe on whichever podcast provider you're listening on, and share what we're doing if you like what we're doing. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Manifestation Pod with me, Sam Fillingham, and Louise Marshall. Please follow, subscribe, and rate our pod. Share with friends to support two ordinary mums living extraordinary lives.